right, good morning. Welcome back to Daybreak on this 7th day of June 2022. It's 63 days to the general election. And if you're talking about the time remaining for official campaigns, then it's about 61 because it has to close by the 6th of August 2022. My name is Sam Gituku. Let me introduce our guest already here, Edwin Sifuna, the ODM Secretary General, but also a candidate for the Senate seat in Nairobi. Good morning.
Good morning, Sam, and it's nice to see you again. It's been quite some time before.
It's been quite some time,
yes.
Almost 2 months.
Yes, I had to go through the rigors of the party primaries.
Right.
Thank God that we have gotten to where we have today.
All right, and congratulations for that. And I want us to begin by talking about the latest that you see on the dailies. Of course, the main story is about the road to State House on the Daily Nation. It's the candidates that have been cleared now: David Moro Wahiga, George Wajakoya Professor, Raila Odinga, and William Ruto. And these are the names alongside those of their running mates that will feature on the presidential ballot paper in the August 9th general election, the lowest number of candidates since the advent of multi-party democracy in 1992. The Electoral Commission knocked out more than 50 aspirants from the hotly contested race. And then down there you'll see Raila's canon, the manifesto that he was unveiling yesterday, some of the highlights of what he's talking about in education, cost of living, social protection, devolution, public debt, the youth, and so many other issues that have been detailed in the manifesto. Then Sonko wins reprieve of a Mombasa race. Judges withdraw orders that restrained the Electoral Commission from allowing former Nairobi governor to contest in Nairobi. But Mr. Sonko is not yet out of the wounds. Of course, it's a case that is yet to be heard in full and determined. We'll be waiting for the determination of that. Then on the front page of the Standard, Raila, what I plan to do 100 days in power. Azimio candidate vows to grow the economy and renew fight against corruption by ensuring senior officers sign deed to resign once graft scandals emerge in their dockets. Then we have the best interest of women. That is William Ruto, who had been meeting with the Women's League and, of course, spoke about the promise to nominate 10 cabinet secretaries that are women in his cabinet. Then again, like what I told you, IEBC kicks out what the Standard is calling jokers in race for president. Out of 57 people who began the journey to succeed President Kenyatta, only 4 got clearance from Chairman Wafula Chebukati to vie, dealing a big blow to independents and others who failed to meet the basic requirements. And in fact, this time round, there's no independent presidential candidate on the ballot. And that's where I want us to begin. And SG Sifuna, looking at that path that we have followed, just some 2 weeks ago, when we started with the registration of presidential candidates, we had about a list of 55, now down to 4. What would you say has the process taught us this time round?
Well, first of all, Sam, I'm one of the few people who's a bit relieved about the turn of developments because we were pretty worried about a congested or long ballot paper. Because it presents certain logistical problems, even if you just ignore the confusion to the voters of having 50 candidates on the ballot. You want to think about the layout of the polling station itself. If you have 50 presidential candidates and each one of them insists, as is their right, that they have to have one agent in the polling station, for instance, it would be a logistical nightmare for the IEBC. Then we come to the actual voting, and you have a voter presented with a very long ballot paper that is physically even challenging to handle. And then, you get to the point of counting of ballots, even the sorting itself. Because if each one of those 50 candidates just manages to get one vote, you have to sort out, if you have seen the process of, you have to spread them out, then call them out. It would take us weeks for us to be able to have electoral results. Now, I am a bit relieved because the process is going to be a bit smoother for the voter. We have said for a long time that, in fact, this race is a two-horse race, and that whilst these independent candidates have complained, I don't envy them I mean, it is very, very difficult to grow the trust of Kenyans to the point that they are giving you a physical copy of their ID.
Right.
You have to have the, the absolute faith of a Kenyan before they release that all-important document to you. So it is something you have to build over time. The trust that people have in leaders such as Raila Odinga. I mean, if I, as the SG of ODM, went out in Nairobi today and people know I'm the SG of ODM and started collecting IDs, I would be done in an hour because people have faith and trust in the institution that Raila Odinga has built over time. So personally, I was a bit worried about that. I know that it is very difficult to procure those IDs as they complained, but also it is as a result of past experience that, in fact, if you don't insist on the physical documents, people will just bring you lists of people supposedly supporting their candidature. And we have seen this phenomenon, Sam, that there are people who can actually be able to raise 48,000 signatures, but they will not get 48,000 votes. That tells you that there is a problem in that system, that in fact these signatures could be procured either wrongly or that in fact people are motivated otherwise than genuine support for the candidates to be able to give those IDs. So I wish that all the other down ballot seats would look like this. Here in Nairobi, I think they cleared, is it 9 or 10 candidates for Senate? Many of them you've never heard about, but that's a story for another day. The MCAs, there's a long ballot as well for MCAs. And we were trying to understand what is the motivation for some of these people to get on the ballot, because they will insist on being on the ballot, but they don't even make an effort. You don't see them campaigning. You don't see them putting in any effort whatsoever. They are just content on being on the ballot. So we were trying to ask ourselves, what is happening, Right. Because even in terms of the cost of the production of the materials, the more candidates you have, I am sure, the more expensive the material becomes. A ballot with 4 names cannot be the same price as a ballot with 50 names. And then even when you talk about ballot boxes, Sam, there is no way, if you have to fold this newspaper and put it in a ballot box, it will take fewer pieces to fill up the box than if you are just folding.
But if a polling station is just 700, then it might actually fit, even if...
That's what I'm asking you. Yeah. If a ballot paper was the size of this, you have only 2 candidates. And there's another ballot paper that is the size of this newspaper, because it has 50 candidates. It would take more of this to fill up a ballot box than this. You could have only 2 of these filling up 1 ballot box. Then they have to bring another one and another one. Right. So logistically, it would create a challenge. But we need to understand the motivation. I am happy that the threshold that has been set, at least for presidential candidate, has enabled us to weed out many of those candidates. I wouldn't call them jokers. They are people who have their own motivations. We just need to understand their motivations, the motivation of someone who has not put in any particular effort to make Kenyans know about him and what he stands for, and then insist on being on the ballot without even making the effort to campaign.
Okay. And you look around and you see, for instance, the case in Murang'a County where Senator Irungu Kang'ata has not yet been cleared on the claims that his running mate did not resign from the university in good time. Is this something that people didn't know, and what are the consequences now? Can he pick a replacement?
I think the law was clear. There are certain arguments, and I want you to give me time to explain to you. The law is that every person who intended to participate in the election who should have resigned by February. So that if you knew that you were going to be a candidate, then you needed to resign. But the problem with the running mate position, Sam, is that it is more or less an appointive position. That it is very difficult, given all the considerations that go into selecting a candidate, a deputy for the governor and even the deputy president, for you to know 6 months ahead of time that, in fact, this is going to be the permutations. There's a lot of things that change. So it is a bit of an unfairness, in my view, on the deputy governors themselves, because nobody knows. Like Kang'ata's deputy had no way of knowing. Maybe he was one of those people who was considering being considered. Probably if he had been informed in time that you were one of those, you would have maybe 5-6 people resigning. Yet they are being considered, and only one of them was going to get it. But the law is what it is. The law is the law. I don't think that it would be right to lock out candidates just on the basis of the fact that there was a problem with their deputies. And I have had a meeting with the IEBC. You remember the meeting we had regarding the timelines for submission of the name of a deputy president.
Right.
They themselves agreed that, in fact, it was an administrative arrangement because there are certain things that need to go into vetting of those candidates,
yes,
including these issues of when they resigned, so that you would be given a second opportunity for you to be able to submit another name before the actual legal deadline for submission of the names of the candidates. So I don't see a problem. I encountered a similar problem in Bungoma County with our governor candidates there under the Azimio, Mheshimiwa Wangamati. We just changed the candidate last evening so that he is allowed to be on the ballot, and then the residents of Bungoma can be able to exercise their choice.
Very, very interesting there. And so now when you look at it, I mean, the possibilities, because with the 4 presidential candidates, Raila Odinga, William Ruto, Wahiga Mwaure, Professor Wajakoya, of course, with their running mates, what do you think would be the impact of this? Because previously it was feared there was going to be a 3rd horse. Now we have 4. What is the impact in your view? I
don't think you're counting the horses correctly. And we have said, our positions has been from the start that this was going to be a 2-horse race. You know, with the greatest respect to Wahiga and Wajakoya, I know that this contest is essentially between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. Because of the standing and the stature and the sort of political support that they've been able to build. You know, at least for Wajakoya, I know what he's running on. I have not heard the policies of Wahiga. For me and our coalition, we are focused essentially on ensuring that we are able to convince the majority of Kenyans that, in fact, we have better plans for the country. And this is what is contained in this manifesto, which I'm sure we will get into. So for me, it has always been a 2-horse race. I am on record on your show from way back that, in fact, the choice is going to boil down to these 2 gentlemen. And I hope that Kenyans will make the right choice.
Okay, all right. Let's listen to what Wafula Chebukati, the returning officer of the presidential election, said yesterday at the close of the registration of presidential candidates in the election.
I invited him to appear before me today at 2 p.m. to clarify the issue. He failed to honor my invitation, and pursuant to Regulation 43(2)(c) of the Election General Regulations, I hereby revoked the nomination certificate of Walter Onjoka Mongare of Mocha Summit Party dated 2nd June 2022. We are looking at this period of 2 weeks for all those disputes to be determined, because come end of this month we shall be proceeding to prepare the ballot papers.
Okay, all right, so moving on to the next step. I don't know if you have the details, because it appears that IEBC had cleared Walter Mongare, but just before the close of that process, that certificate is recalled. This is covered in law before you close?
I think this confusion was quite unfortunate. And my own position is that Chebukati needs to appear like he knows what he's doing. Because the revocation of Mongare's clearance is an obvious afterthought after the encounter with my friend Jimmy Wanjigi. The question of whether you have the qualifications for any particular seat is a question of fact. That before you appear, when you appear before the commission, in fact, the commission has a checklist. They should tick and say, yes, do you have this, do you have this, do you have this, do you have this? For you to clear someone and then come and tell us that, oh, I have just suddenly had new information reach me that he doesn't have a degree certificate. Ask for the physical degree certificate the moment that a person appears before you, just the way that they did with our presidential candidate and all the other presidential candidates, so that it doesn't bode well in terms of building the confidence of the public that the IEBC and specifically Chebukati knows what he's doing for there to be such confusion. He has cited some regulations there, so he has legal basis for him to be able to do what he did. But we are saying that in terms of preparing Kenyans psychologically to have the confidence that the commission knows what it is doing, this does not help. You know, this does not help. And one of the other things that I need to say about this requirement for office is that it takes, I don't know what it is, for you to walk into an interview, knowing full well that you don't have what it takes for you to be able to pursue the job that you're looking for. I don't know what it is, but there is this culture that is cropping up that, in fact, people can just wing these things, that you can just, fool your way around and get yourself into office. It is something that we need to condemn.
Okay.
If you know for a fact that you do not have the requisite paperwork for you to be able to get a certain job, why are you pursuing it? Why are you pursuing it? I was a bit tickled by what befell my brother, Jimmy Wanjigi. You will know the noise that he caused within even ODM when he wanted to be our flag bearer. But those of us who are the holders of the records of all the members of the party, we silently knew that this guy was not running for president. He was on a frolic of his own. And I told you and I promised you on this show that in the fullness of time, it will be revealed that, in fact, he was not running for president. He had his own other agenda. And Kenyans can now see that we were right.
What was the agenda?
It has been disclosed because he was not a candidate for president. You see, Sam, you cannot tell us that you've decided now to go to school in order to earn the qualifications for a position, yet you have already started campaigning for that position. It tells you for a fact that this was somebody who was on a totally different mission. You imagine what happens if ODM, a party as big as ODM, were to hand a certificate or a ticket to somebody like that. Then at the very last moment, we are told that, in fact, this guy cannot run for president because he doesn't have the qualifications. The embarrassment alone that it would cause for a big party like ourselves, let alone the political and legal consequences, would be enormous, So that is what I'm saying, that, in fact, we need to relook at the intentions of some of these people. Why is this person running when we know he does not have the capacity, he does not even have the qualifications to run, and yet he insists and makes all the noise in the world and receives all the coverage that you people gave him during the times when he was giving us problems at ODM.
Wow. Okay. Of course, a lot of events happened at the Bomas of Kenya yesterday, including Muthiora Carriera, an independent aspirant who went ahead to ban it's not a voter's card because that does not exist in law. I think it's just a voter registration acknowledgement slip. And Wafula Chebukati, the chairperson, said that it's up to the DPP to know what to do with such a situation. But it's important here to note that even if you ban the acknowledgement slip, it is of no consequence in as far as you getting the right to vote or not, because you vote using your identity card or the passport, depending on what you used to register as a voter. I want us to take a breather so that we can introduce Professor Karuti Kanyinga, who is already in the house, will be joining us on the panel. We're still expecting one Gladys Bose, the woman representative for Uasin Gishu. If she's able to join us, she'll be joining the panel to talk about the manifestos of 2022 after the break. Stay tuned.